PMPA's Final Cut of the Week, where we share important information you may have missed while you are making essential parts. I'm Joe Jackson.
And I'm Miles Free. This is what you need to know for the week ending August 18th, 2023. Your job of finding steel that is compliant with various U.S. government sourcing requirements just became more difficult. Late last week, we learned that the last 500 workers at Republic Steel were furloughed indefinitely. Grupo CEMEX consolidated the Republic production to its new La Scala, Mexico mill. Operations that were idled include Republic Steel mills in Canton, Ohio, and Lackawanna, New York. We also learned this week that U.S. Steel had refused an unsolicited buyout bid from Cleveland Cliffs that offered an approximately 54% premium over their current share price. I released a video explaining the repercussions to our industry covering leaded steels, Buy American, and DFARS requirements. Our members received it via email early this week, and it was posted on our PMPA LinkedIn feed yesterday. This is an important update, and we encourage you to watch it.
Prices for final demand goods edged up 0.1% in July after no change in June. The July increase is attributable to the index for final demand, which rose 0.5%. Prices for final demand goods, less foods and energy, and for the final demand energy were both unchanged. The headline final demand indicator increased 0.3% in July, seasonally adjusted. For our precision machining shops, the factor of importance in this report involved processed goods for intermediate demand, which fell 0.6% in July, the sixth consecutive decline. Over 60% of the July decline in prices for processed goods for intermediate demand can be traced to a 7.6% decrease in the final for steel mill products.
The nation's international trade deficit in goods and services decreased to $65.5 billion in June, as imports decreased more than exports. Exports of goods decreased $0.2 billion. Capital goods exports increased $0.8 billion, while other industrial machinery exports increased $0.5 billion. Our take? It is a positive sign to see imports declining, but we are cautious not to assume that this is coming directly out of China's balance. Many intermediate goods are still being manufactured in China and then near-shored to Mexico for final assembly and packaging.
According to the U.S. Federal Reserve, quote, in July, total industrial production increased 1%, following declines in the previous 2 months. Manufacturing output rose 0.5% in July, end quote. The increase in industrial production was led by transportation. The production of motor vehicles and parts jumped 5.2%, while factory output elsewhere edged up just 0.1%. This latest reading shows industrial production at 102.9% of its 2017 average, 0.2% below its year earlier level. Capacity utilization moved up to 79.3% in July, a rate that is 0.4 percentage point below its long run, 1972 to 2022 average. These numbers tell us that the importance of transportation markets to total industrial production cannot be overstated. It appears to be responsible for 90% of the month's increase in July.
On this week's Speaking of Precision podcast, Carly Kistler-Miller, David Wynn, and I discuss why e-mobility presents a significant opportunity for innovation and growth going forward for our shops. This podcast and our Speaking of Suppliers podcast can be found on major podcast platforms or on pmpa.org.
Now it's time for our weekly tip. We manufacture critical components for a number of advanced technologies where human safety is in the balance. We also manufacture in a world increasing in volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. How can we assure that we intelligently manage the risk faced by ourselves, our customers, and their customers, or the general public? An effective contract review process. To learn more about an effective contract review process, go to PMPA.org's Knowledge Centers or Final Cut of the Week.
And that's our take on what you need to know for the week ending August 18th, 2023. For additional information and links about any of the topics discussed today, go to PMPA.org and click on Final Cut of the Week.
Thanks for checking in, and we'll see you next Friday.